Hello, welcome to my Statistics 2 class. This is our first week. We're going to take relatively easy today. I'm just going to give you a short class for today in the form of this very short video. So, welcome to Statistics 2, and I really hope you enjoyed this class just as much as you have enjoyed Statistics 1. Yeah, you know you enjoyed it. You know you like my classes. Well, I hope so. So for those maybe who are new here, my name is Dr. Guch Nuriev. You can call me Guch if you would like to. That's probably easy enough. I guess my surname is not easy for many of you to pronounce. Originally, I am from Turkmenistan. So here are the contacts of how you can find me in the office, in the International Finance Department, and here's my email, of course. So, talking about the textbook, I will not require you to buy any textbooks. And as you know from Statistics 1 last semester, I will do my best to provide all necessary information for you, both in my classes as well as in the materials I post for you on Moodle. So if you are diligent to listen in class, and if you are diligent to review all of the materials I post on Moodle, you can spend perhaps only 1 hour per week on that. Just 1 hour per week for reviewing Statistics 2. I'm not asking for much. If you can do that, I'm sure you will be passing this class very easily. Generally, if you would like to get a textbook, I guess this textbook by Lind, Marshall, and Wotton is an interesting one. I like this textbook. But of course, we're not going to follow everything from that textbook. I have already adapted my materials a lot. As I said, I will provide everything you need for you. To review what we have done last semester and what we have for this semester. Last semester we've covered Statistics 1. Basically what we did last semester is we've talked about descriptive statistics, meaning that we looked at different ways of describing data. Okay, we used, as you know, many different types of averages, such as a mean and many other types of averages. We used many different types of variances and spreads and ranges and frequencies in different charts, including histograms, scatter plots, and other very interesting illustrative ways of describing data, of making it easy to read data. Okay, because sometimes data can be in the form of a huge table, and as a human being, it's hard for us to understand what's happening in the data if we look at it in the form of a huge table with 1,000 lines and dozens of columns. So that's what we did last semester. This semester, Statistics 2, we have inferential statistics. From the name, you will perhaps guess that we're going to make inferences because it's inferential statistics. In other words, we're going to make conclusions. We're going to look at the data and see what we can understand from the data. For example, if we look at the relationship between the amount of money printed by the government, the data on that, and the price changes, perhaps we will find out, perhaps we will conclude, perhaps we will make an inference, hence inferential statistics, that there is a relationship between the amount of money printed and inflation, prices changing. Okay. So we're going to look at different methods of that are used in inferential statistics. We're going to estimate relationships between different variables, as I mentioned, such as variables on money printing and inflation, perhaps variables on rainfall and crop production. We're going to estimate these relationships. We're going to look at these relationships using different kinds of methods. We're going to spend several weeks on hypothesis testing. We're going to look at confidence intervals. We're going to look at estimation methods such as ordinary least squares and perhaps others if we have time. So these are the things that we're going to do generally this semester. Okay, that's basically in one sentence, but more specifically I have a plan for you. We're going to start with looking at probabilities. Here's an illustration of probabilities. Let's look at an example of throwing a couple of dice. When you throw a couple of dice, what are the numbers that can come up? Anywhere, any numbers between 2 and 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? Is the chance of number 5 coming up the same as the chance of number 7 coming up? No, it's not, because 5 can only come up if a pair of 1 and 4 on the dice appears, or a pair of 2 and 3 on the dice appears. So that's only two kinds of pairs, multiplied by 2 as we reverse the dice into those pairs. But number 7 can appear in more numbers of pairs. Hence, the probability of number 7 coming up is greater. Just a quick taste, just a quick example of probabilities for you. And of course, we're going to discuss that for maybe a couple of weeks. So we'll have a chance to go into much more details. But this semester is going to start with probabilities. Not this week. This week I will use as an introduction, as a bit of a review of statistics for you. Okay? After looking at probabilities, perhaps we will look at sampling. Okay? Sampling is used when you don't have a chance to analyze all of the data in all of the population. Okay? We mentioned briefly sample and population last semester in Statistics 1. Generally, if there is no resources, if there is no ability to analyze all of the population, perhaps there is no time to survey all of the 15,000 students in the university, perhaps you might study the opinions of the students by just surveying 200, 300 students. That would be an example of a sample of students from the population of all of the students in a given university. So we're going to look at different methods of sampling. How exactly do you select those 300 students out of 15,000 students in the university? And how does that affect your analysis of the data? That's what we're going to study later on this semester. Talking about the data analysis in more detail, once we come up with some conclusions, perhaps after sampling the opinion of 300 students out of 15,000 students in the university, we might come up with a conclusion that a lot of the students prefer this particular kind of ice cream rather than this particular kind of chocolate. But we haven't really surveyed everyone in this university, so how confident are we? So we'll move on to confidence intervals sometime during this semester, and that is basically the meaning. Perhaps we are, well, 90%, 95% sure that, yeah, the students in this university generally prefer this rather than that, based on surveying a sample of those students, even though we haven't really surveyed every single student in this university. Right. Next, we'll move on, perhaps that's near the later part of the semester, to hypothesis testing. That's when we actually have some ideas about how the data perhaps behaves. For example, if prices of ice creams and chocolates change, how would the preferences of the students change? These hypotheses will be tested by actually looking at the data and checking what does the data tell us, right? Sometimes the hypothesis might be true, sometimes it might not be true. So we'll have a look at all of those possibilities and the methods of how to actually test our hypothesis. Basically, a hypothesis is an idea, right? Perhaps you have an idea if you add, I don't know, let's say vitamin C to your pineapple little garden. Does it increase the production of pineapple from that garden? That's just an idea, that's just a hypothesis. And perhaps you can test that using data. And the data can actually either support your idea, support your hypothesis, or reject it, right? So this is what we are going to look at during this semester as well, right? So whenever you're in class, generally you do know the rules. You're always welcome to interrupt me in class and ask your questions, because if you don't understand something and we move on, there'll be more things you don't understand. But of course, as I mentioned, you have to review the material for, say, one hour per week, right? That will be very helpful. Most of these rules you already do know. If you have any questions, better ask me in class rather than start talking to your friends. That will distract the whole class, right? So you know most of these rules from last semester from Statistics 1. Let's just move on to our schedule, our plan for this semester. I think these are the dates. Excuse me if the dates are not really correct. I wonder if there are any days off this semester falling into our classes. I guess we will have to see as we go along, but generally this is the preliminary plan for our semester. As I mentioned, we're going to start with probabilities. Today is only an introductory class. We'll spend perhaps a couple of weeks on the first unit of discrete probabilities, another couple of weeks on the second unit on continuous probabilities, then we'll move on to sampling. And that will kind of already bring us towards the midterm exam time, right? After that, we'll have a look at confidence intervals, as I've mentioned, and hypothesis testing. These can be quite tricky, a bit complex, but I'm sure you can deal with that no problem. So that'll take a while, and that'll mostly be time for final exams soon after the confidence intervals and hypothesis testing. So that's the plan for the semester, right? And as usual, as last semester, as in Statistics 1, every week, except for today, we're going to take it easy. After today, after this first class, every week I will give you some practice test. Every week I will give you some practice test. That's item number 1 over here, your weekly tests, weekly quizzes. Perhaps we will have around 12 of them. I'm not sure. It depends on how many days off we have this semester and all that stuff. Perhaps around 12 quizzes, whatever the number of quizzes is. I'm going to assign 40 points for all total quizzes that we will have. So if we have around 12 quizzes per semester, it means that each quiz has a weight of around 3 points or so, each of those quizzes. Another 30 points for the midterm, another 30 points for the final exam. In total 100, and of course you know you need 60 points to pass the course. So these tests that you will have every week is just like a present, just like a gift for you. You are welcome. It's an easy way to collect a whole bunch of points, up to 40 points. If you do well on those tests, it's going to be relatively easy. Those tests are going to be easier than the exams. So easy to collect those points, consider it a gift. All right? You will be collecting a lot of close to 40 points. You will not need much more to pass this course. So I hope you enjoy the class, and I hope you do well, and of course pass it.